President Biden breaking from his calls for unity and bipartisanship. Today, he said he would like support of Republicans, but they are not willing to go as far as he thinks the government needs to go. And joining us now to talk about today's movement on the Hill is Lanhee Chen from the Hoover Institute. He has advised several major campaigns, including Utah Governor Mitt Romney and Florida Senator Marco Rubio's presidential runs. Appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much. You have said Republican senators threw President Biden a lifeline earlier this week for COVID relief and working together. So what is your reaction tonight to the news that what has conspired today?
Well, I think it's very unfortunate. Look, I think the president had an opportunity to work with Republicans to bring together some unity on elements of his package about which there were bipartisan sets of approvals. For example, around direct COVID relief, around certain elements of direct payments to individuals, and also around a few other areas as well. But unfortunately, it looks like the president decided to go it alone. I understand he wants to keep some of those campaign promises he made. I understand that he also wants to act expeditiously. But there was an opportunity here, I think, to work with Republicans. It is a lost opportunity now, though, and we'll have to see whether there will be any appetite amongst Republicans to even try to work together again on the president on this or other issues.
I'd like to play a soundbite briefly from the president today detailing why he said action now is necessary, and then we'll get your thoughts on the back end.
So to me, this is what this moment comes down to. Are we going to pass a big enough package to vaccinate people, to get people back to work, to alleviate the suffering in this country this year? That's what I want to do. Or are we going to say to millions of Americans who are out of work, many of whom have been out of work for 6 months or longer, who've been scarred by this economic and public health crisis. Don't worry, hang on, things are going to get better. We're going to go smaller, so it's just going to take us a lot longer.
406,000 people left the labor force last month. The U.S. economy is 9.9 million jobs shy of pre-pandemic levels, according to the AP. And, of course, COVID deaths continue to surge, now over 450,000. So what do you tell people who say they are tired of waiting for relief and they need that help now?
Well, I think we have to ask what it is in the president's package that would have been dramatically different from what we saw in the proposal that came from 10 Republican senators last week. And the answer is the vast majority of what's in the president's proposal is additional spending that really wouldn't do a whole lot to alleviate the situation immediately. There is a lot of money in the president's proposal, for example, for state and local governments. It's unclear whether that would actually result in the creation of any additional new jobs. We also see, for example, the president has got dramatically more money in his package for direct assistance to individuals. But frankly, most of the difference between the president's package and what Republicans proposed is going to amount to stimulus money to people who are doing quite well economically, to people making, for example, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So I think the challenge here is, could the two sides have come together to craft a more well-tailored package? You know, if the Republican amount was too low, it was an opening bid, they could have gone to somewhere in the middle and spent, let's say, $1 trillion or $1.2 trillion on a package that may have addressed some of the direct concerns people have. But this notion that somehow, because Republicans gave their proposal, the president gave his proposal, and that was it, no more conversation, let's go to a strictly partisan approach, that I think is not what the American people signed up for when they picked Joe Biden as president.
Are you optimistic moving forward? What is the game plan for the GOP? Because they certainly have their work cut out for them in the House and Senate.
They do have their work cut out for them. I think the game plan has got to be to continue to articulate the things that they're for. You know, I think one of the challenges Republicans have had in the last couple of years is they've become so closely tethered to Donald Trump. So many of the ideas, so many of the personalities have been about Trump that we really haven't been able to hear, well, what are Republicans actually for? And I think it's going to be significant over the next couple of months for Republicans to articulate that agenda, even though they're in the minority in both the House and the Senate. They do have an opportunity to do that. I hope they seize that opportunity and actually go forward doing that instead of merely opposing everything that Biden and Democrats want to do.
A lot of work to do, and if they all want to maintain that promise of unity, at some point we will have to see some bipartisanship. Lanhee Chen, we thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.